here with Half Dozen Customs. It's Monte Monday again. We're out here getting ready to work on some stuff. And first, I'll show you guys. I did find the drive shaft and I did get that out. It was so you can see that it is quite a bit longer than the drive shaft we were trying to use, that I believe is for the Blazer. So I have not test fit it yet to see if it'll fit, but you know, it looked like we were probably about 10 inches short with that other drive shaft. And as you can see, that one looks like it's about 10 inches longer. So I think we're gonna be good. Sometime throughout the day we'll check it and we'll see. But first thing I'm gonna do is we're gonna get to work on this. So we're gonna knock this rubber bushing off here, and as you can see, it is pretty rotted on these ends. So I think what we're gonna end up doing is we're just gonna cut it right along here, and then I'll take an 1/8 inch steel plate and we'll drill some new holes in it. We're not gonna go this big. We're not gonna use the rubber. I'm gonna eliminate that rubber. So we'll just drill the size hole that we need. Maybe a little bit bigger so that we have a little adjustment. But we'll weld a new piece on there and eliminate that. And by the looks of this side, we're gonna have to do the same thing. You know, it does look like we're a little thicker than 1/8 inch there, but I think that will be okay. And then we are going to cut this piece off, and once we get these side pieces done, then we can mount this guy back in the car, and then we'll put him where we need it and we'll weld it back on. So first thing I'm going to do is we're going to pop the rubber off on this side, and then I got the extension cord out. We're going to grab the wire wheel and we're going to get this guy all wire wheeled up and get all the grease and gunk and nastiness off of here. So let's start with popping this off. You guys weren't even watching. So, now that we got these cleaned up, let's drill some holes in them. Okay, so we got those drilled. Now I did go up to the size that it kind of was, I guess. You know, these look like a little bit bigger. You know, we traced with magic marker inside the hole, and we went to the size of the magic marker mark. But again, I don't think that we're going to be putting the rubber isolators back on, so that's fine. And next time I go up to Ace, I'm gonna get some large bolts with some washers and probably some locking nuts. And we'll put some heavy duty bolts in there. I got the welder over here. We're gonna get these things welded up. I tried to clamp them on, but because the transmission tube was like a round pipe that had been smashed, the transmission tube is like this. And it won't let me clamp nothing on it, and anytime I try and clamp on it, it just slides off of it because of the way that it's on an angle like that. So we're just gonna have to hold it up there, tack it in place, eyeball it, make sure it's nice and straight, and weld her on. So I broke out the new welder by Safe Speed. It's a Meg 250D. So let's try this and get this tacked in place. Now I've only used this a couple of times, and it seemed to work really well when I used it. So this is like the first, like, I guess, thing that I've used it on besides just testing it. Basically, if you guys watched the video, like that was me using it for the first time. And it's really the only, I think I've tacked a couple things together with it, but other than that, we haven't really used it. So let's hope that works well. And then I also wanted to show you guys, so like I grabbed this rubber bushing that we popped off of the other side. Excuse me. So if we wanted to replace these rubber bushings, they fit right on. So we'd still be able to use these if we wanted to. So this welder is new technology. It's a little weird. For one, like the gas flow doesn't shut off right away, so it's kind of interesting. It kind of works like a TIG does. It has that extra flow. And it also is a weird startup. It like automatically adjusts itself as you're welding. get my welding gloves and my helmet. Okay, not too shabby. So, if you watch that other video, the one thing that I had mentioned in that video that I wasn't a real fan of is that, like, when you very first start off welding, it kind of welds funky, and then it picks up and starts welding really nice. And you can see that right there. But the machine self-adjusts, so once, like, this is it trying to find its happy spot, and then you can see it found its happy spot. So that's the only thing that I find weird with this machine. But other than that, I mean, that's a super nice weld. Okay, I got that side again. I did it again. So I got that side welded up. Good weld, not as pretty as the other side. Okay, so it didn't sound right welding, and it definitely don't look clean. Like there's some splatter, there's a lot of buildup on there, but I felt like that welded so much better. Like that's a way hotter weld on that. So the thing with this, welder is that it like when you adjust the bolts on it, it automatically adjusts the wire speed for you. So it's not like my old welder where you can turn up the heat or the volts and then you can self-adjust the wire speed. And this just, it doesn't have that. It does it automatically. So, like looking at this weld, like this weld sounded really good, like frying bacon. But if you look at the weld, like it just doesn't look like, it looks like too much wire, not enough volts. So then I turned up the volts and then it sounded like it didn't have enough wire. But look at that weld, like that weld is much, much better. You know, and on this side, you know, I think that that's a decent weld. You know, so is that one. You know, I don't know what happened coming over to this side. I didn't touch nothing. It just welded totally different right there. So, but Luckily this is underneath the car. Luckily this is underneath the car and you won't ever see it. Had I just did that with my 110 welder, it would have looked beautiful both sides. But I wanna use this new welder. I gotta get used to it. I gotta figure it out. And only way I'm gonna do that is by using it. So, but I think we're good. That's not gonna go anywhere. So I'm gonna let this cool down. We'll clean up the holes. I need the holes that we drilled on the drill press. We just need to hit them with the grinder. They got some sharp slag around them from drilling the holes. But it's super hot at the moment, so we'll let it cool off. And then we'll go see, well, we got the actual trans mount that we got to get cleaned up so that we can weld it back on here. And I think I want to drill some speed holes in it just cause it's what I do. No particular reason. I just like the way it looks. So I think we'll do that, and then we'll slip this thing under the car, and excuse me, and then we'll tack that trans mount where we need it. Hopefully, we'll see. All right. Either way, we'll be back here in a minute, probably to drill some holes. Okay. So I really, the more that I looked at that one weld, I couldn't let it be. So I ground the whole weld back out and re-welded it. So much better. And I did play with the welder a little bit, and like I did notice it, like, so so this changes your volts. So we're at like 16.6 volts, and if I spin this one, you can turn up the wire speed, but see how it adjusts the volts as well. So with it doing that, now I think messing with the two dials, like you can self-adjust it, but like, so I left it at 16.6 volts, but I turned up the wire speed, and I turned up the wire speed to like 3.1 instead of the 2.3, and we were right back to the just giant boogery weld. So I readjusted it back down to the 6. I had to grind it back out again. Luckily, I stopped like halfway through just to see what it was looking like, because I didn't like the way that it was welding. So I stopped, and yeah, it was just a big giant boogery weld again. So grinded it back down, reset it to what we set the other one at, and like I said, much happier. So that looks a lot better, and so we're gonna redo this side now. Not because I'm not happy with the welds. I welded it on backwards. These holes are supposed to be out closer to the edge. I grabbed our piece that we cut off, and so we welded it on. We welded it on like that, and you can see here's our cut edge. So, oopsie. So we're gonna cut it back off and clean it all up and weld it back on. So you guys need a new battery, so let me put a battery in, and yeah, we'll cut that thing back off. Oh. Okay. So, much happier with that. That looks good. This off. So that weld looks good. That weld looks good. Much happier with the way that that is welding. Now, normally when I'm welding, I usually play it by sound. The way that it makes the frying crackling noise as it goes along, like you want a constant like buzz as you're going through, or like Carl from Make It Custom always says, frying bacon. Like it should have a constant frying bacon sound. And welding the way that this is welding, I don't have that, which is throwing me off. When we're getting that good frying bacon sound, there's just way too much wire being put out. So, you know, I have self-adjusted this thing to turn the volts up and the wire speed down, and it doesn't sound really good, but it's putting out some nice hot welds. And when I flipped this over, we welded the one side and I flipped it over to weld the other side. It didn't like weld completely through, but you could see where it had actually, the 1/8 inch plate was actually melted on the other side. So we are getting damn near full penetration through an 1/8 inch steel plate. So, you know, we're putting a weld on one side and flipping it over, and you can see that the metal was melted on the other side. So, you know, now it wasn't like a piece of sheet metal where, you know, you weld a piece of sheet metal and it's basically welded on both sides. It wasn't like that, but you could tell it was close. So that's a good sign of good penetration and a good weld. So okay, we are going to let this cool off for a minute, and we will see what we can do about drilling some holes in this over here. So, you know, what I'm thinking is just a hole, smaller, bigger on both sides. I'm just gonna kind of eyeball this. This thing has that one that just, man, it does not want to cut anymore. And looking at it, it looks fine. I don't really see. That bit wasn't the best bit anyways. The last thing that I tried drilling with that was like a hardened piece of steel, and I had to heat it up red hot to be able to drill through it. And it kind of toasted that bit. Okay. We have a couple speed holes. Now it does look different from side to side because this side's really short and this side's really long. But we have our 3 speed holes. I think that that'll look a lot better. Now we need to clean up where that thing is going to be welded back on. All right. I'm going to get you guys set up over there under the car so you can hopefully see what's going on. and I'll see you guys over there. Hopefully, you guys can see what I'm doing. I grabbed some bolts. Now, the bolts that are going to go up in the frame rail, oh, I think those are just way too big even. I gotta find some kind of hardware for this stuff. I may have found something for temporary. I wanted to weld. So when we were cutting this guy off here, I really gouged into this pipe. I wanted to weld that back up so we can grind it down. So that's where I welded up that gouge at. Let me get that welded up, that looks good. This looks good all the way across there. That one looks good there. On the sides, we had some big gaps to fill on the sides there. Like the top butted right up to it, but the sides, not so much. So. And I think that's just because, you know, where we just welded this up right here is where this was originally mounted. So it was mounted way over here, and you can see that the pipe changes size as you go across. So we went from, you know, when obviously because of this here, I cut as close to the pipe as we could get. So we didn't lose too much of this. Now I'm sure we lost a little bit, except for maybe here because I cut into the pipe. But for the most part, I think we just changed size of pipe as we moved along, and it opened up our gap a little bit, but I ain't scared to fill a gap. So but that's why these welds look a lot bigger on the sides than like this one, because this one we were actually touching, where these we were not. So I had to put a fatter weld on there so that we could fill in that gap. But I think it looks good. We got a little grinding and a little cleanup to do. Grinding here. I'm not going to grind anything else. And then paint it. You know, a lot of it had paint on it. So, you know, it was covered in grease. You've seen we took off all the grease, and underneath that grease was paint. So a lot of it is pretty clean metal, but as you get towards the ends on both sides, you know, it is rusty. So I don't know. We're definitely not doing anything tonight with it. It's almost 10 o'clock already. I've worked later than I intended on this, but I wanted to get this guy finished today. So we got it finished. We got it in. It fits. I'm happy. We had bolts in it. I'm happy. Technically, I could put this back in there tonight, bolt everything up, and I can take my jack out of there. And we are fully supported by the motor mounts and the trans mount. But I do want to paint this thing before we put it in, and I'm just not sure. You know, am I gonna just run over it with the DA real quick and rattle can it, or am I going to put some PLR 15 on it, or am I gonna sandblast it? I don't want to make that decision tonight. We'll think about it. You know, if I decide to just say screw it and we'll just rattle can it, and it is what it is, and if it ever, you know, if it rusts back, you know, I'm sure it will, but you know, if it takes 20 years for it to do something, then who knows you know, who knows what will happen in 20 years. So, but if I decide to just rattle can it, I'll get it rattle can throughout the week. I did get throughout the week. I did get the shift linkage all sandblasted and painted. I did that throughout the week. I had other stuff that I was sandblasting and painting, so I just figured I'd do this and get it done. The only thing I gotta find is there's got to be some kind of cup or washer or something that this goes in before it gets slid into that bracket that's on the frame. That's the only thing that I gotta find. I gotta go through bags over there. But I got that done throughout the week. Like I said, I had other stuff that was getting sandblasted and painted, so I just kind of threw that in the mix with everything else. So I might do the same thing with this. You know, I may just run over it with the DA, and we may, you know, just spray it with some 2N1. If we ever decide that it needs to go farther than just rattle canning, you know, it's 5 bolts and it comes right out. So it's not, you know, it's not a super big deal if we just rattle can it. I would like to just sandblast it, but I hate sandblasting. Not only do I hate sandblasting, but it's getting cold out. Like this morning it was like 39 degrees out when I came out. So, but anyways, not to complain about weather. Colleen says I do that a lot. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video. It was a lot of work, and we pretty much had to do, minus the centerpiece, we had to do the 2 ends twice. One side almost 3 times. Luckily I stopped halfway through that weld. But okay, we're back out here next morning, and normally I try not to work on the Monte Carlo throughout the week, but trying to clean up the shop a little bit, and we had drive shafts down here, and we got the trans mount down here, and you know, we got tools under here and all that stuff. So I'm just trying to clean up, and best way to clean up is to put the parts where they belong. Now this is just gonna be temporary. We're gonna take it back down because we still got to paint this thing. But last night after I shut the camera down, Colleen came out here to look at the trans mount and everything that I did, and she started asking about the drive shaft. So I crawled underneath here to see if the drive shaft would fit, and it does not. So we now are about 3 inches too long. So I called a buddy of mine. His name's Eric. Great guy, love him. He's like my brother. He is my brother from another mother, and he is the reason that I'm into cars. When I was 5-6 years old, he had me running around getting wrenches for him. He has probably changed more motors by the time he was 20 than I have in my whole life. So I called him to ask his opinion of the issues that I was running into, and he had me send him photos of everything that was going on. Now I was told that this transmission was a 700 R4, and it's not. It is a 350 long shaft. So that is why I'm running into issues with this drive shaft. That's why it's too long. The transmission is 3 inches longer than a normal 350 turbo transmission. So I actually had sent him some pictures of the V6 and transmission and everything that we pulled out of here, and he said that transmission is a 350 turbo transmission and that I need to put that transmission in. So he said either cut down my drive shaft and then take it in and have them make me a new one at the size that I need, or put this other transmission in. Now, he said that this transmission that's in here now, this long shaft transmission, is what he runs in his Vega. He has a badass hot rod Vega that has a lot of power to the wheels. And this is the transmission he runs. He says that they're out of trucks and they are built to withstand force. So he said, you know, if I'm planning on running high horsepower and all that, then this is a good transmission to run. But if we're just building a cruiser, which basically that's all we're building, I'm not looking to make this thing into a race car, then just put the other smaller transmission in and call it a day. So I have a feeling that we are going to be cleaning up that transmission over there, getting that painted, and swapping the transmissions out. And then we will use this transmission in my mini truck, because my mini truck is going to be a high horsepower build. So if you guys have ever noticed, my motor selection that's in the background here, there is one that is wrapped in plastic, which is so that guy there is a built motor that is going to be being used in that Blazer. It's all brand new. So this will be a good transmission to put behind that motor. So I'm going to think about it during the week. We may just end up cutting down the drive shaft. We may end up swapping the transmission around. I talked with Colleen last night, asked her what she wanted to do, and she said to put the stock transmission back in this, the one that came out of it, put it back. So yeah, we'll see what's going on, but for right now I'm going to put this back in, just so that we can clean up everything. Okay, so we got that in, and I'm hoping that the trans mount on the other, like, so this trans mount on here is brand new, so we'll just take this one off. You know, we moved everything over to fit this transmission, so I'm going to take this trans mount off of this trans and hopefully install it on that trans, if that's what we're going to do. And hopefully everything will just bolt right back in. But just in case, you know, I'm not going to go through and get this guy painted right now, until we figure out what's going on with the whole transmission setup. So, but, you know, just so that you guys can see, like, hopefully it's not too dark under here, but like, you know, like I said, we're probably about 3 inches shy of being able to put that guy in. Now, I have built a couple different drive shafts for just some rat rods, and I've never had a problem with them. Like, I've never taken them in and had them balanced or anything like that. No vibrations, no nothing. Just straight cuts, and using like this tool right here, and just making sure that, like, when I'll clamp the drive shaft. This is how I've done it in the past. Clamp the drive shaft in the vise, make sure it's set at 0, and then when you put the I don't know what the heck, I'm having a brain fart. You know, when you put that piece back in the end of the drive shaft, you know, you make sure that that's zeroed out as well. And as long as both are set at 0, then you know that you're straight and level in there. And you re-weld it back up. And like I said, I've done a couple in the past and never had an issue. No vibrations driving down the roads. And I'm talking, like, you know, 80, 90 miles an hour down the highway, like, no vibrations. So doing burnouts, no vibrations, no wheel hop, no nothing. Like, you know, I've never had a problem doing my own drive shaft. So I have no problem doing that drive shaft. It's just, which route are we gonna go? Am I gonna do a drive shaft? And, you know, worst case scenario, I do the drive shaft, we have a vibration, I take it into the drive shaft shop, I see if they can balance it, and if they can't, hey, there's your you know, instructions to build me a new drive shaft. I need a good drive shaft. So you know, so it is an option, or that transmission's an option. I don't know. I'm gonna have to think long and hard over it this next week and see which route we're gonna go. You know, it kind of sucks to pull this transmission back out and then have to pressure wash that other one and get it all wire wheeled again and get it repainted and all that good stuff. It can be done, but, you know, we've made it this far, and now you know, I either continue on with making this work, or we go, you know, 3 steps backwards. You know, in 3 steps, I'm saying, you know, we go back to putting the transmission on the engine stand, pressure washing it, painting it, taking this transmission back out, reinstalling the new transmission. You know, it's 3 steps backwards. So, and then to see, you know, hopefully if the drive shaft fits. So, I know that I did measure, like before we started putting this motor in this car, like I measured everything. I don't remember what the exact measurements were. Like, I want to say that one was like 31 and a half, and the other one was, I don't remember, 27 and a half or something like that. You know, and that gives you you need a little slip in that transmission so that the yoke goes in and out of the back of the transmission when your suspension's working. So, you know, you have an inch of play in there. You know, we'll have to see. So, you know, if you guys want to let me know down in the comments what you guys think, feel free. But stay tuned, because it looks like we got more work ahead of us. I'll see you guys next Monday. I'm out. Remember to like, subscribe, share, and leave a comment. See you guys later.
Oop.